I won't step down. Power doesn't come with an expiry date. The people gave us a mandate, and we will see it through. No matter what they say, I am staying right here.
There's a particular kind of sentence in politics that tells you everything without sounding dramatic. He won't resign. Simple, flat, controlled. But underneath it, a storm, because Keir Starmer's allies are making one thing crystal clear ahead of the May 7th local elections: no deals, no pacts, no timetable for stepping down. Translation: whatever happens at the ballot box, he's staying. The quiet panic behind the calm voice. Now, politicians don't usually come out swinging like this unless there's pressure, real pressure, the kind that builds internally before it ever becomes public. Because nobody says, "I'm not resigning in a vacuum." That sentence only exists when someone somewhere is already asking, "Should you?" And that's where this story lives, not just in the elections, but in the anticipation of what those results might do. The Angela Rayner line. Then came the quote that cut a little deeper than intended. A Starmer ally reportedly said, "It's surprising if a politician as experienced as Angela didn't realize this." That's not just a statement, that's a message directed straight at asterisk Angela Rayner. Because what they're really saying is, you don't put an expiry date on power, not if you want to keep it. Why exit dates kill authority. Let's strip this down. A leader with a public exit date is not a leader, they're a countdown. Every decision becomes temporary. Every policy becomes negotiable. Every ally starts planning for what comes next. Because once the clock is visible, loyalty shifts, quietly, gradually, but inevitably. That's why Starmer's camp is shutting this down hard, not just to stay in position, but to protect the perception of control. The election shadow now. Let's talk about what's coming. May 7th, local elections, and the predictions? Rough, losses expected, possibly heavy ones, not just a bad night. A statement from voters, and that's where things get dangerous. Because local elections are not just about councils, they're mood indicators. They tell you how the country feels about the people in charge. And right now, the mood is complicated. The leadership tightrope Starmer is in a difficult position. He won power by being steady, serious, controlled, measured, the anti-chaos candidate. But governing is different from winning. And the patience people had during opposition doesn't always survive into government, especially when results feel slow or distant or invisible. The internal question. So inside Labour, whether publicly or privately, the question starts forming. If the losses are bad, how bad is too bad? Because politics doesn't run on loyalty alone, it runs on viability. And when viability gets questioned, conversations start. Quiet ones at first, then louder ones. No deals, no pacts. That's why this line matters so much. No deals, no pacts. Because it's not just about refusing to resign, it's about refusing negotiation, refusing conditions, refusing to turn leadership into something that can be bargained over. It's a power move, clear, firm, non-negotiable. The reality of staying. But here's the thing. Staying in power is one challenge. Staying effective is another. Because if election results come in badly, the narrative doesn't stop. It intensifies, media pressure increases, opposition attacks sharpen, internal doubts grow louder, and suddenly holding position becomes an active task, not a passive one. The optics problem. There's also the optics, because telling people you won't resign no matter what can land in two very different ways. To supporters, it looks like strength. To critics, it looks like stubbornness. And in politics, perception matters as much as reality, sometimes more. The power equation. At its core, this is about one thing: power. Not in the dramatic sense, in the structural sense. Authority depends on belief, belief that the leader is staying, belief that they're in control, belief that backing them still makes sense. Once that belief cracks, power doesn't disappear instantly, it erodes. The unspoken risk. There's a risk in drawing a hard line like this. Because if you say, I'm not going anywhere, and then circumstances force movement later, it looks like retreat. And retreat in politics is rarely interpreted kindly. Keir Starmer is not offering an exit plan. He's not entertaining timelines. He's not negotiating his own departure. And in his camp, that's seen as essential, because power, once timed, is power already lost. So whatever happens on May 7th, whether the results sting, bruise, or shock, the message from inside Labour is clear. He stays. No countdown, no conditions, no clock ticking in the background. Just a leader holding position in the middle of political weather that may or may not turn against him. And that's the gamble, because staying in place is easy until the ground beneath you starts moving. And if the results hit hard enough, the question won't be whether Starmer plans to leave. It'll be whether he can hold on. Because in politics, you don't always choose your exit. Sometimes the moment chooses you. And here's where it sharpens. Because once a leader publicly rejects the idea of stepping down, they're not just defending their position, they're raising the stakes. They're saying, judge me on what comes next, not on what just happened. That's confidence, yes, but it's also exposure. Because after a statement like that, every decision becomes heavier. Every policy gets scrutinized harder. Every misstep echoes louder. Every win has to prove something, not just competence, but legitimacy. And legitimacy is the real currency here. Not titles, not speeches, not internal backing, public belief. If that holds, Starmer's stance looks firm, disciplined, controlled. If it slips, the same stance starts to look rigid, even disconnected. That's the knife edge, because power doesn't collapse all at once. It thins, quietly, gradually, until one moment, one result, one shift, one internal break tips it. So the real story isn't just that Starmer won't resign. It's that he's chosen to tie his authority directly to what happens next. No safety net. No pre-written exit, no soft landing, just continuity under pressure. And in politics, that's either how you stabilize a leadership or how you test exactly how stable it ever was.